Welcome! In this tutorial we want to show you how to best achieve your objective using OBO Construct. Our aim today is to explain how you can create a fire insulation system. The preconditions for this are that you're registered, you're logged in, and that you're on the homepage of the OBO Construct portal. In order to begin a new project, click the Start button. You will be directed to the starting page where you can add new projects or find projects you've already begun under the category Projects. From here, you can start with a new configuration or with a new project. You can add a project by clicking the plus button, Add Project. You can see here the input mask for a new project. This is where you can add project details such as a name for your project, the client's name, and a project abbreviation. Everything can be selected freely. We'll start with the editing. The fields that are marked with an asterisk are mandatory fields, so they need to be filled in. The date will be added automatically, which means you will always be up to date. Let's just begin and name our project Example. We save everything and jump back automatically, and now you can see that the project has the name Example 1. Let's move on to the building. You want to create an insulation system for a building. So it makes sense to add a building, and you can also upload an image of the building. The building is now set up. You can add it here and also edit it. In our example, we'll call it Campus. We have now created a building called Campus 1. There's also the option to set up further buildings and to work on them at the same time. As you can see, we have the same selection for each building. But as we only want to work with Campus 1 now, we can simply delete the building called New Building, and it no longer exists. Earlier on, we talked about fire insulation, so we're not interested in the modules earthing, underfloor, or cable assignment. Let's just begin with fire insulation. If you already have experience of certain systems, or if you know exactly which items to use in this project, then you can start with the function Select System directly. However, if you're not certain that the fire insulation you select will function in the way you intend it to, I would always suggest starting with the selection aid. The aid will guide you step by step towards the appropriate insulation system. So let's just start with the selection aid. Select the component. As you're on site, you'll know best what the preconditions are. Is there a solid wall, a solid ceiling such as poured concrete, lightweight partition walls? In this example, we'll choose the solid wall. With regards to the fire resistance class, the information has already been provided to you in the plans, or the fire expert will declare this is a wall that will withstand fire for 90 minutes. So you select 90 minutes here just as an example. The dimensions, and again as an example, the form of the opening such as round, rectangular, or unknown. It's not about knowing exactly which form is correct, it's about identifying the area for the calculation so we have the basis to allow us to determine the quantities. In our example, we'll stay with rectangular as most openings are this shape. Here we can then change the size, let's say 15 by 15 and also 15 centimeters deep. And now you can see here a graphic illustration of how this could look. The light blue represents the tunnel that you can see. Regarding the assignment, do you want a cable seal or a combination seal? Installing a combination seal requires that you complete a training course, meaning you must have attended a seminar on how to install a combination seal, or you have at least received instruction on this at some point. It's a question of distances here. Our sales team will be happy to provide you with more information about this. Alternatively, we'll be happy to help if you write to info@obo.de. The level of assignment is of course always an important aspect. You know best how many cables you want to lay. However, you should never push the limits of the system. If you know the maximum is 30%, you should lower it to 25%. To leave a little extra room is advisable, as you never know if you'll need to add more cables in the future. You also know best how to perform the installation, so we have provided you with a large selection of items that could possibly be used. Generally, these are cables and cable support systems. You can select these here, as well as hollow shaft cables or armored plastic or armored steel pipes. Bundles of armored steel pipes or cable ties can be found here too. So, now we save everything we need and can move on to the next step. You've now chosen the installation, so let's click the Continue button. Here we can see that there are a variety of seal options and products, but we need to select further parameters. We can, for example, say that the seal is to be temporary because the construction site needs to be protected against fire over the weekend. Are you working in the IT area? Then a dust and fiber-free environment is important. Does the wall need to be painted, for example in white, so there won't be a red spot in the corridor as most seal systems are red? Here are the parameters you can determine in order to reach your desired result and to choose the right products. Let's choose a one-sided installation, assuming that you're only able to access the installation from one side. You can now see that the program offers you A cushion insulation system, and B, the Pyrosit system, which is our fire protection foam. We'll now select this one, and here's the result already. For the size of your seal and the cable assignment, you'll need 1.21 cartridges. It goes without saying that the required amount will always be rounded up to full components, which means in this case you'll need 2 cartridges. However, you have also the option to use a foam block. In order to see what amounts you would need combining those 2 products, you can click here. If you now decide that you would like to use more blocks than initially thought, you can select a block here. This then means you'll only need 1/3 of a cartridge. As you can see, there's the option to try different components by still working within the scope of the approvals. But let's stick to Pyrosit only. We don't want to use foam blocks and save everything we've done so far. However, there is an accessory that is compulsory. The identification of the seal is important as described in the approval, which means we open the product list and just add an identification plate. If you want to label the system from both sides, you simply increase the amount to 2. This can be done very flexibly. So now we save everything again. You also have the possibility to add optional accessories. Of course, the cartridge won't squeeze itself, so you'll need a pistol, which you can add here. 2 mixing pipes are always included. If you need more, you can order them here too. The same applies to fabric tape that you may want to use to create a small border so the material doesn't leak out. The tempering box makes particular sense in winter, but also in summer because the cartridges should only be stored at a certain temperature. We won't select anything here now, so close the product list and go back. By clicking on Continue, we can go directly to our selection. So we have now chosen the insulation system and have the name of the system, which is given here. It makes sense to keep this name because it's for the system overall and the name will be used throughout the process. The date will have remained the same. However, you now need to name the building unit, which is a mandatory field as indicated by the asterisk symbol. So we'll name it, for example, Floor 1. We have chosen the name of the building already, it's called Campus 1, and here we now have Floor 1 and also a new room which we will call Room 1. This means we have clear specifications for the insulation system. We're in Campus 1 on Floor 1 in Room 1, so we'll just save these parameters. You always have the option to go back during the configuration process to see what you've selected in previous steps. Here at the top, for example, a number of insulation systems could be listed. Just click on the relevant system. So if there's more than one system listed here, more systems will be shown. You've applied a grey background to your system, which means you have completed your selection. Click onto the eye and you'll see all the information about the insulation system you have selected. By scrolling down, you'll find further information, for example about the approval or the mounting instructions. Here, you can also see the components you've chosen. In our example, you'll see that we have selected the fire protection foam and the identification plate. By clicking onto the fire protection foam, you'll be shown more information about the product, for example about the storage temperature or the contents of the cartridge. In this case, this is 380 milliliters. So, to summarize, you can always jump back to the system details overview via the planning overview. We have selected the Pyrosit system and the building unit was Floor 1. If you have more floors, you can add them by clicking the plus button and naming them Floor 2, 3 or 4, or however else you'd like to name them. This also applies to the rooms, as there's obviously more than one room on this floor. Or at least we'll just assume this is the case. And of course, you want to seal the same type of room in the same way. So you simply add another room via the plus button, which we'll call Room 2. In order to make things a little easier, we'll have the same insulation system in Room 2 as in Room 1. To achieve this, click onto the insulation system, which makes the background grey. Then you go into Room 2, click the plus button and the insulation system, which has already been configured for Room 1, has been applied to Room 2. Here again, you can carry over multiple seals and you can increase the number by clicking the plus button. Or you can move on to the next room. There are so many options to enlarge the floor levels or the units, or to add rooms. Of course, there's also the option to delete a room again. You can also copy a room, you can delete a room, everything is possible. When you've finished the configuration and you've defined the different units in the area, you have the option to export a materials list. The list will show clearly what you need per unit, floor and room, and what components have been selected. The order list is cumulative, which means it states every product with the appropriate quantities. So it's not broken down into each room, but tells you that for your project you will need a total of 43 cartridges of puller seat. So here you can choose if you would like a materials list or an order list instead. These come in Excel format, which makes sense as Excel is widely used. The Declaration of Compliance is an essential part of the approval, which you will need to complete. You can find it here at the bottom to download. In this document, you declare that you have created the system according to the approval of OBO Betterman. It forms an essential part later when the project is handed over and the building is inspected. Via the Start button, you can now easily go back and return automatically to the Start page where you'll find the project Example 1. You can close it and open it later. It's saved here for future editing until you decide to delete it. Another way to get to the project is to click onto the projects icon where you'll find the version you have created and saved. Right, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and that it will help you when using OBO Construct. We look forward to welcoming you next time. Thank you for listening.